Cops are meant to protect us, but some cross the line by abusing their power and committing terrifying crimes. Join us as we uncover the shocking stories of killer cops who finally got caught. The heartbreaking case of Rayshard Brooks, a loving father and talented dancer known for his warm spirit. But what could have led this respectable man to fall asleep in a drive-thru, blocking the path for others? To find out, Atlanta police officers responded to a call at a Wendy's parking lot. What happened next is both shocking and tragic.
Yo. Yo. What's up, my man? Hey. What's up, man? Hey. Hey, man, you're parked in the middle of the drive-thru line here. Hey.
Copy 41 no injury.
Sir.
25 westbound at Jones.
What's up, man?
25 west.
Hey, you're parked in the drive-thru right now. Hey, sir.
Called in by a third
right?
party. See a black Toyota Camry and an unknown.
Dude, you're parked. You're sitting in the drive-thru line here. What's up? So you're parked in the drive-thru line. You're blocking traffic here. You were sleeping when I walked up here. What's up, man? You just have a long day or something? What's up? All right, yeah, you can't. You're blocking. People calling said you were blocking me. All right.
When the officers approached, they found Brooks sleeping peacefully in his car, an unexpected sight for such a busy location. After waking him, they asked if he was okay, quickly realizing he might have had an exhausting day. Suggesting he park the car to rest, they left him to get some sleep. But soon after, Brooks was found asleep behind the wheel again. This time, the officers began to suspect something more. Was he drunk?
She drove here and dropped me off.
In what car?
And a black Volvo.
Okay.
Actually.
So how did this car get here?
I mean, it was here before I came. Like, this is my car. It's a rental car, my sister. But, I mean, like I told her, I came here, I met her here.
Okay.
From the beginning, and she picked me up. And, I mean, we went out.
So you met her here at the Wendy's?
Yes.
And then you went out with her?
Yes.
And then she came and dropped you off?
back here.
Okay.
And, you know, I mean, like I told her, I mean, say, hey, babe, you know, I just want a burger or I want fries. She said, hey, no problem. I'll take you there.
All right.
You get your fries and you come back to the hotel.
Okay.
No
so
problem.
The reason why we're here is because somebody called 911 because you were asleep behind the wheel while you were in the drive-thru, right? You recall that?
I don't.
You don't recall that? You don't recall just minutes ago where you were passed out behind the wheel in the drive-thru?
Uh-uh.
You don't recall that at all?
Absolutely, I don't.
Just complete blur.
I wasn't driving. Like I said, I just drained my girlfriend. She probably was sleeping, but like I said, babe, I want French fries.
So far as I'm aware, you're the only person that's been seen in this vehicle, right?
Yeah, only person.
And you've been in the driver's seat the whole time. So how did the car get into the drive-thru line?
45B.
With you behind the wheel?
She drove here. I said, babe, I'm drinking.
In a black car?
In a black Volvo.
And you got into your car?
I said, hey, you know what, no problem. I'll just meet you at the hotel.
Okay.
And she said,
All
hey,
right.
get out.
Hold on. So after she drops you off here, in her black car, your car was parked where?
Here.
Okay. So how did your car get from here to the drive-thru line?
I never moved.
So how did it get there?
It never did get there. I told you I was in her car.
Well, we've got a 911 call.
As the conversation continued, it became evident that Brooks was not fully in control, likely due to alcohol. He seemed confused, even imagining his girlfriend had dropped him off. Despite being alone in the car, a DUI-certified officer was called in, who managed to get Brooks to admit he'd been drinking.
See that you had too much to drink, and you realized that you shouldn't drive, so you parked?
I mean...
Would that be accurate to say?
Yes, sir. Mr. Ruff, yes.
All right, so your girlfriend dropped you off, you got into the car, you backed out, you pulled up, and you're like, damn, I'm too drunk to drive. And so you pulled back into the parking spot. Right?
I call her like, babe.
Is that accurate?
If it's a couple moments, I got on the phone with her.
Yeah.
I'm like, babe, hey, damn, you want number 1 or number 2 or?
But
she's like,
would you agree?
You take care of that. You're a man. You figure out what we're going to eat tonight.
All right. Let's move past that. Would you agree that you've had too much to drink to drive?
I mean, I can focus, Mr. Ross. I can focus.
Would you agree that you've had too much to drink to drive?
I haven't had, to the point where I can't focus.
Okay.
I was a little tired ahead of the day because we just came from North Carolina.
You think that you're safe to operate a vehicle right
Absolutely, Mr. Ross.
And how much have you had to drink?
I had 1.5 margaritas, Mr. Ross.
1.5 margaritas?
Yes, sir.
Brooks insisted he was still fit to drive, claiming he'd only had 1.5 margaritas. The officer, however, wasn't convinced and persuaded him to take a breathalyzer test to confirm his level of intoxication.
Okay, just wait here while I grab it.
So, just trying to make sure, man, you're safe to drive, that's all.
I know, man.
You scared me a little bit because you were sleeping in there, so that's, why I was making sure you're okay. And then that's...
I know. You just doing your job.
All right, just take a deep breath in, put your mouth over the mouthpiece, blow as hard as you can until I tell you to stop. Blah, 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 stop. Very good.
I just had a few drinks, that's it.
How many?
1.5. Like I said, I was into the second cup. I told her, babe, let's go because I'm hungry.
What kind of drinks did you have?
I'm not sure. It's something she ordered. She said top shelf or whatever.
Top shelf what?
I'm not sure. It was, like I said, it was her birthday and it was my daughter's birthday intent to, have a good time. And I said, babe, I'm hungry. Let's go. My baby's mom, she was there. I said, babe, go ahead.
It turned out that Brooks had been celebrating his daughter's birthday, spending time with her and her mother. But the results of the breathalyzer were damning, and the officer moved to place Brooks under arrest for DUI. What followed was nothing short of tragic.
Here, put your hands behind your butt. Hey, stop fighting! Stop fighting! Stop fighting! You're gonna get tased! You're gonna get tased! Stop!
Mr. Ross!
Stop!
Come on, man.
Stop! You're gonna get tased!
Mr. Ross!
Hey, hands off the taser! Hands off the taser! Stop fighting! Hands off the taser! Stop fighting! No, taser! 63.
As Brooks was being cuffed, fear and desperation took over. He tried to flee, but Officer Gerard Rolfe, who had been listening intently, reacted swiftly and violently. He shot Brooks, declaring, "I got him." What followed was even more disturbing. Rolfe kicked the wounded Brooks multiple times as he lay defenseless on the ground. No immediate medical assistance was offered, and Brooks tragically succumbed to his injuries. Was fleeing from a DUI truly an offense that warranted such a lethal response? Justice, however, wasn't far behind. Officer Gerard Rolfe was charged with murder, while Officer Devin Brosnan faced charges of aggravated assault. Moving on to our next case. Do you enjoy the thrill of gambling? As the saying goes, gambling is not about money, it's about the thrill of the risk. Our next officer, Nomia Rosemary Ndolvu, who served as a police officer in Tembisa, South Africa, knew all too well about this thrill, but in the darkest way possible. Ndolvu was battling a severe gambling addiction, which led her to make increasingly dangerous choices despite being a respected member of the police force. She would occasionally skip work to dodge loan sharks.
Settle into her new role very quickly. Her new co-workers all claiming that she was very pleasant and generous. She would often buy them more lunch, and gave loans to any of them who were in need of money. But that wasn't all the time. Some days, Rosemary would walk into the office with a very dark cloud around her, often irate and angry, complaining that she was broke, and making sure that all of her colleagues knew that. They were also aware that she had been frequenting Empress Palace in Kempton Park, a large casino in Johannesburg. It seemed as if Rosemary was frequently coming into money, only to lose it again to gambling and frivolous spending. And although Rosemary had recently started a new job, it was in the year of 2014 that she fell pregnant to her first and only child. Her name was Makanani.
But how does this connect to something as sinister as murder? Here's where the real gamble begins. In 2012, Ndlovu realized that there was another way to fund her addiction, a deadly way. She started taking out life insurance policies on her own family members, then hired hitmen to kill them, collecting the payouts.
Ningangena nibahame ningabashisa mara ukugwaza nokudubula ayikho emakhaya yabona ukushisa number 1 nokuhamba number 1 zona lezo yithi bengicanga ukuthi sihambe manje ne masihamba manje ngiyohlangana naye ngimbize sihlangane somewhere mina mhlambe ngifake imoto laphana yabona ngimnikezele laphilisi njabule yabona ngimtshele ngithi lamaphilisi asiza mntamba mawulala uwaphuza womkhuhlane ngithi manje kuzingena isizini yomkhuhlane ngithi niwaphuze mani lala ngoba ayalalisana then nina nizokhona ukungena ke akunamabhadla laphana ngibuyela la esibhedlela ngibuyela la esibhedlela nayo baba endlini uyazi ukuthi ngila esibhedlela so la esibhedlela ngicelile banginikeze i-pass out bathi ngibuye ngo-4 so lana noma ngafika ngo-5 6 7 akunandaba as long ngidulile so ngoba ngithi indawo yokushisa ifuna ngishise kusebusuku siyayibona ngiklini mina nginakucala ngazo ngase bangitshela indaba mina kusasa ngiyavuvuka ngiyagijima ngiyekhaya ngicela amalungiselelo ngiyaklima ngenza zonke lezi zinto.
Her first victim was her own cousin, whose death earned her an insurance claim of 131,000 R. Money, it seemed, mattered more to Ndlovu than the lives of her loved ones. After her cousins, she targeted her sister, boyfriend, nephews, and niece, adding up to 6 victims by 2018. Each life lost meant more money in her pocket, funding her lifestyle. By the time she was arrested, she had collected a staggering 1.4 million R from these life and funeral insurance policies. Unbelievable, right? In 2021, justice finally caught up with her. She was sentenced to 6 concurrent life terms for the murders and an additional 30 years, 10 years for 4 counts of fraud, 10 years for 7 counts of indictment to commit murder, and 10 years for the attempted murder of her mother, Maria Mushawana.
For 2021, Rosemary Ndlovu's trial began. The court amassed a total of 40 witnesses to come forward and testify against Rosemary, which included family members, colleagues, and the 2 hitmen that she had attempted to hire to kill her sister. As proceedings began, Rosemary was jovial towards the court and often posed for cameras, seemingly unaware of how serious her situation was. Families of those deceased took to the stand to comment on how unfeeling and flippant she was at the funerals of their loved ones. She outright denied any involvement in any of these murders, meeting these allegations with anger and rudeness. She even got angry at journalists simply for recording her. Regardless of this, at the end of her trial, she insisted that she was innocent, but did apologize to the families and friends of those who had been killed and asked for forgiveness. It didn't take long for Rosemary's verdict to be made. In October of 2021, Rosemary Ndlovu was found guilty on all charges, which included 6 counts of premeditated murder, 4 counts of fraud, and 7 incitements to commit murder. She was therefore served with 6 life sentences, 70 years for incitement to commit murder, and a further 10 years for her counts of fraud.
The thrill of the risk in gambling took on a horrifying new meaning in Ndlovu's life, turning her into a monster driven by greed. What are your thoughts on this chilling story? Be sure to share them in the comments below. As we turn our attention to another notorious figure on our list, let's delve into the chilling story of Floresvaldo de Oliveira. Better known as Cabo Bruno, once a respected officer of the military police of Sao Paulo State, Cabo Bruno's name became synonymous with terror.
Pasión y el pavor de los pobladores. Pero a principios de los años 80, al sur de Sao Paulo, se comenzó a correr el rumor de que un sujeto rondaba las calles, asesinando a sangre fría a los más peligrosos delincuentes de las favelas. La primera víctima fue Ademir da Cruz, un joven que solía rondar la zona con un intimidante perro Rottweiler. Varios vecinos afirmaron que no solo era un bandido que amenazaba a los comerciantes del barrio para que le dieran dinero, sino que acosaba a una chica de 14 años. A mediados de 1980, Ademir apareció asesinado en un sitio baldío. Aunque algunos afirmaron que su muerte supuso un alivio para los vecinos, existen testimonios que indican todo lo contrario y que no era un delincuente.
Accused of committing over 50 murders in the outskirts of Sao Paulo during the 1980s, he earned a dark and infamous reputation, making him one of the most controversial characters in the history of law enforcement. But what drove this former police officer to such extremes? Why so much bloodshed? Let's uncover his motives. The Sao Paulo Military Police estimated that Cabo Bruno, along with at least 12 other officers, including 2 high-ranking officers, were responsible for a series of executions in the city's south zone. These killings were often shockingly unfair, with victims selected based solely on their appearance. In one chilling case, a boy was murdered simply because he had a small cross tattooed on his wrist, a mark that, in Cabo Bruno's twisted religious view, indicated criminality.
Ando dentro de la cárcel, aunque él mismo afirmó posteriormente en un par de entrevistas que la cifra superaba las 100. Pedriño Matador lucía un intimidante tatuaje en uno de sus brazos que decía "mato por placer". Sin embargo, aseguraba que escogía como víctimas exclusivamente.
As investigations into these crimes unfolded, it became obvious that the gang was being shielded by influential people within the police. However, as more evidence came to light, the corruption was exposed, and the gang was eventually brought down. Cabo Bruno's killing spree wasn't just part of his police work. It was something he did on the side. Rumor had it that local traders were his main clients, paying him to carry out these brutal killings.
Brasil es un país con una alta tasa de criminalidad que alcanza un promedio de 30 a 35 homicidios por cada 100.000 habitantes. Aunque se han implementado varios programas para intentar combatir la violencia, algunos de los cuales han tenido un éxito moderado, las cifras siguen siendo desalentadoras, sobre todo en las favelas, las cuales se han convertido en el epicentro de actividades criminales como el robo, el tráfico de drogas, los secuestros y el sicariato. Se estima que las primeras favelas de Sao Paulo surgieron a principios de los años 20 y poco a poco supusieron un problema para las autoridades debido a la usurpación de terrenos, su nulo plan urbanístico y arquitectónico y la proliferación de la delincuencia. Sin embargo, el gran auge de las favelas llegaría en la década de los años 70, cuando la cantidad de habitantes en estas zonas aumentó a más del 440% debido a la reducción de los salarios y el alza de los precios en las viviendas. La extrema pobreza, la precariedad de las construcciones, el hacinamiento y la ausencia de servicios básicos como escuelas u hospitales traería consigo graves consecuencias. Cientos de miles de jóvenes que vagaban por las calles no tuvieron más alternativa que prostituirse, robar o unirse a pandillas de delincuentes para intentar sobrevivir.
Among all his victims, only one man, José Aparecido Benedicto, survived by pretending to be dead and escaping when he had the chance. Justice was a long time coming, but it eventually caught up with Cabo Bruno.
Cabo Bruno era quien se encargaba de barrer el sur de Sao Paulo, matando a sangre fría a todo aquel que tuviera aspecto de delincuente.
After 12 trials, he was sentenced to 113 years in prison, Despite multiple escape attempts, he was finally detained at the Jose Augusto Cesar Salgado Penitentiary in Tremembe. In prison, Cabo Bruno underwent a transformation, claiming to have found faith and becoming an evangelical pastor. He even married a volunteer worker at the prison. And in 1998, his artwork was showcased in a Sao Paulo exhibition. One of his followers in the prison's chapel was Lindenberg Alves, a notorious criminal in his own right.
Sospechoso de ser el temido asesino de la zona sur. Florisbaldo, más conocido por sus cercanos como Cabo Bruno, era un ex militar que había sido interrogado en el mes de agosto en relación al crimen de Claudio Pasternak, pero la investigación no tardó en relacionarlo a por lo menos otros 36 casos similares, en donde algunos testigos lo reconocieron como el atacante. Ante la evidencia y la presión de la
Cabo Bruno story is a disturbing reminder of how power can be twisted into something monstrous, turning prosecutors into predators. Moving on, meet Mikhail Viktorovich Popkov, infamously known as the werewolf. There was something eerily strange about him. His victims' bodies were often discovered on Wednesdays, earning him the nickname the Wednesday Murderer.
Cold open. In the frosty expanse of Siberia, a chilling tale unfolds. This is the story of Mikhail Popkov, an unassuming family man and a former Russian police officer with a sinister double life. Known as the werewolf, his reign of terror spanned nearly 2 decades. By day, Popkov was a respected member of the community. By night, he morphed into a predator, selecting his victims with precision, stalking them before striking with brutal force. His modus operandi? He'd offer them a ride, their last. After years of evading justice, the werewolf was finally unmasked. His tally, 55 victims, though some believe the number could be higher. His motivation, a twisted sense of cleansing society. In this vast frozen wilderness, the echoes of his horrendous deeds still linger. Mikhail Popkov, the werewolf of Siberia, a true crime story that chills to the bone.
A native of Russia, Popkov served as a police officer in the Irkutsk region. By the time of his capture, he had also worked as a security guard at the Angarsk Oil and Chemical Company and a private firm. But instead of upholding the law, Popkov used his position to commit unspeakable crimes. Popkov's twisted logic led him to target women who, in his eyes, behaved immorally, like attending parties without male chaperones. His methods were as cunning as they were cruel. Donning his police uniform, Popkov would patrol the streets at night, searching for potential victims. He'd offer them a ride in his police car, only to take them to remote locations, where he unleashed his horrific violence. His weapons of choice were knives, axes, baseball bats, and screwdrivers, which he used to murder his victims before assaulting their lifeless bodies.
He would take them to a secluded area where he would rape and kill them. He said he wouldn't hide the bodies, he just made sure not to leave any evidence. Something he must have learned more about being a police officer. It's hard to believe that Mikhail had any sort of life outside of killing. From 1992 to at least 2000, he racked up a total of 78 confirmed murders. He used a number of different murder weapons and killed women in some of the most brutal ways. Some of the injuries on his victims were made with his teeth, which is where he got the nickname, the werewolf. One night, he picked up 35-year-old Maria Lazina and 37-year-old Lilia Pashkovskaya and drove them into the woods. Once there, he raped the women and beat them to death. As he was disposing of the bodies, his police badge fell out of his pocket and he didn't realize until he had driven from the scene. He returned to get the badge, and when he did, he noticed that one of the women was still breathing. 2 more victims were 20-year-old Tatiana Martinova and 19-year-old Yulia Kaprikova. They had gone to a concert in October of 1998 and had a few too many drinks. Mikhail took this opportunity to teach the women a lesson, and after offering them a ride, he took them to a secluded area where he raped and killed them. Of his victims, some were bludgeoned to death with rocks. Some were stabbed up to 170 times. He used a screwdriver, an axe, a hammer, a shovel, and a baseball bat. One woman was decapitated, while another had her heart ripped out of her chest.
In his own chilling words, Popkov claimed he wanted to cleanse the streets of prostitutes, driven by what he called his inner convictions. But it wasn't just his twisted motives that made him notorious. It was the consistent pattern of his killings. The fact that his victims' bodies were often found on Wednesdays only deepened the terror surrounding him. Popkov's reign of terror spanned nearly 2 decades, during which he assaulted and murdered 83 girls and women between 1992 and 2010 in Angarsk, Irkutsk, and Vladivostok. However, he has confessed to and is suspected of at least 86 murders in total. So, how did this monstrous killer finally meet justice? The answer lies in a meticulous police investigation. In the mid-1990s, Russian authorities were hunting a single offender responsible for a string of similarly brutal murders. Despite extensive investigations from surviving victims, Popkov remained elusive for 20 long years. But investigators began to notice a pattern. Tracks from a Lada 4x4, an off-road vehicle commonly used by law enforcement, were found at multiple crime scenes. In 2012, DNA testing of 3,500 current and former policemen in Irkutsk finally led to Popkov's capture.
23rd, 2012, he was arrested and charged with the murders of 22 women. He actually confessed to the murders in January of 2015. He was sentenced to life in prison. Both Svetlana and Evgenia faced their attacker in court. Mikhail said he was surprised to find out that anyone had lived through his attacks because of how brutal they were. But far more women had died at the hands of Mikhail. 2 years later, he confessed to 59 more murders. He took investigators to the crime scenes and they were able to verify 56 of his claims. In December of 2018, he was convicted of those murders and given a second life sentence. In July of 2020, Mikhail confessed to 2 more murders. On June 4, 2021, he was sentenced to an additional 9 years in prison. He will spend the rest of his life in a prison colony in Siberia. His last 2 confessions bring the total of his confessed murders to 83, with 78 of them being proven. This makes him the most prolific serial killer in Russia, and he has the 4th most confirmed victims in the world. Not only is he one of the worst serial killers in the world, but he's also one of the worst monsters the world has ever seen. All because he couldn't handle the relationships he had with the women in his life.
In January 2015, he was sentenced to life in prison for 22 murders. His capture and conviction marked the end of a terrifying chapter in Russian criminal history. But the scars left by his atrocities will never fade, transporting you back to 1983 in London, England. Imagine the unsettling scene. Residents of an apartment complex were baffled by their consistently clogged toilets. A plumber was called in to investigate, expecting a routine fix, but what he found was far from ordinary. To his horror, the pipes weren't just blocked, they were lined with something chillingly unnatural: human flesh.
And he looked down in the drains beneath the house and he saw what he knew was not what should be there.
He observed what he said looked like some butcher's prepared meat.
Your mind must be overflowing with questions. How did this happen? Who was responsible? What's the full story? Well, let's uncover the mastermind behind these gruesome killings. The investigation led police to a flat belonging to Dennis Nilsen, a British Army veteran who briefly worked as a police officer in 1974. Further remains were found in Nilsen's flat, and he was soon arrested. Although he initially confessed, he later retracted his statement.
As the 12 at Melrose Avenue. But unlike his previous residence, Nilsen's top-floor flat had no space under the floorboards.
Pieces of another were in the wardrobe in black bags.
Scotland Yard launched its biggest murder investigation today after a pathologist confirmed that human remains found in a sewer outlet were parts of 3 bodies.
And then an hour later, I was listening more intently, and then they said in Cranley Gardens, and it was the house.
If you're thinking it was just one killing, think again. This man is known to have murdered around 16 victims. He lured them to his home through deceit, typically with the promise of alcohol or shelter.
Melrose Avenue was a very old kind of building. It had lots of furniture in it that lots of had been bought during the war, really. It was quite old. The carpets weren't very nice, and it was quite a run-down building.
1:10 last night. Son asleep, Twink over there, me here. Perhaps, crash, bang, what? Have a look there. Move the camera up there. Have a look at that. Right? Look at the state of that. Whole bloody ceiling falls down.
In the most disturbing part of his crimes, Nilsen admitted to masturbating while viewing the nude bodies of several of his victims and engaging in sexual acts with the bodies of 6 of them. After hearing this, it's hard not to question our trust in the police, don't you think? Let's now head towards cases where officers murdered innocent lives on duty. Our next case revolves around Melissa Perez, who lived in San Antonio, Texas, when news broke of her being accused of causing a disturbance by destroying property at an apartment complex on the 6200 block of Old Pearsall Road in San Antonio. The cops rushed to the scene.
Hey, lady, get over here. Get over here.
They spotted her on the street, and when the officers attempted to identify her, she quickly headed toward her apartment. What happened next was both strange and disturbing. Take a look.
You're gonna get shot!
Shoot me! You're 911!
Lord!
No!
The officers jumped over the patio railing, and without attempting to question her or learn more about the situation, they had their guns drawn. Why were they so aggressive?
You ain't got no warrant!
Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Move, move. Go, get him. Hey, watch out,
Hey, watch out! Hey!
Back up!
Here's another angle to the scene.
You ain't got no warrant!
Go, get him. Go.
Hey, watch out!
Shockingly, they opened fire. The tragic reality was that Melissa Perez was mentally ill. She managed to defend herself with a hammer, but was it justified or necessary for the officers to use their weapons? This was a cold-blooded atrocity against a vulnerable woman. Officers Eleazar Alejandro and Sergeant Alfred Flores were charged with murder, while a third officer, Nathaniel Villalobos, was charged with aggravated assault. Next up, we have the heartbreaking tale of a mother whose son was shot by a female officer. Witness how restless and agitated she felt after being deprived of her son's well-being by the very people meant to protect him.
I want to see you now! Please! He's over 20!
I don't know what's going on.
I know what's going on!
What happened?
He FaceTime logged in! Ma'am, I'm going to get you somebody to talk to. I'm going to get you someone to talk to. Okay? But I just can't have you going over there right now, okay?
Ma'am, my name is Mark. My name is Mark. What is your name? Can I have you sit on the ledge here?
You guys shot him. Why?
I don't know. I wasn't here.
Why? Because he had a warrant? Are you serious? I was here. I watched it.
Can you just sit down? Tell me what's going on. Because I wasn't here.
No. Where's the girl that was in the car with him? You guys made her hang up Facebook Live so you could kill my son. That's pretty pathetic. What is your name?
But don't jump to conclusions just yet. We're here to break down the case from the beginning. This is the story of Katie Bryant and her son, Daunte Wright, who was stopped by Brooklyn Center police for a minor traffic violation. The officers discovered he had an expired registration tag and an air freshener hanging from his rearview mirror, which is illegal in Minnesota. Additionally, they found an outstanding warrant against him for carrying a handgun in public without a state permit. The young man was ordered to step out of the car. Now, see what happens next.
You're under arrest, Daunte. stay back.
Oh, I need you. Please stop.
You dead?
Yes.
Okay.
I shot him. Oh my God.
Okay. Kim, sit down.
Tragically, after being shot in the chest, Daunte was unable to drive and crashed down the lane.
Katie knew that her son had been shot because his girlfriend was with him at the time and had Facebooked her, which let her have at least some account of what happened, as officers on the scene were of no help.
This heartbreaking moment was recorded by his girlfriend, who went live on Facebook. At the scene of the accident, his mother was left feeling helpless as the officers claimed they were unaware of the situation.
My name is Katie Bryant. My son's name is Daunte Wright. You guys already know that. I don't. Katie Bryant. It was a high-speed chase? Bryant? How? And then what's your son's name? Daunte Wright. It was not a high-speed chase. You guys shot him in a pullover traffic. I didn't do anything, ma'am. Yeah, you did. He was laying in his front seat dead. His girlfriend Facebooked me. How did his car get smashed? What's his name again? Daunte Wright. Right? Is it W-R-I-G-H-T? W-I-G-H-T. Okay. Is it Katie? Yeah. Bryant. Yeah. All right. Just wait a second here, ma'am.
I need you to just sit down, please.
Ma'am?
You sit down. Okay, so I wasn't here. You said there was a traffic stop and they shot him?
They pulled him over, and he said non-verbal warrant. I said, I don't know. They asked him to get out of the car. He got out of the car, and they said, wait, stop. They said, stop. And then she goes, and then they shot him, and he fell back in the seat. And he was in the driver's seat. And she said, they shot him. And I said, what do you mean they shot him? She said, yeah. And then they told her to hang up, and that was it. I don't know nothing else. So I had to call you guys to find out where this happened.
I really don't know more because I just came because I heard there was trouble.
Why is my car smashed up?
I don't know.
I don't know.
This deputy here we weren't here, but...
I'm Is he alive? I do not know the condition. I don't know. Are you guys serious? What are you talking to me for then?
I'm going to find out.
We're going to find out, but we have to wait and find out who's involved and who's in charge and get you in contact with the people that know what's going on.
The officer involved, Kim Porter, resigned 2 days after the incident. She claimed she couldn't differentiate between her taser and her gun in the heat of the moment. In fact, she couldn't have been reaching for her taser at all, as it's against department policy to tase a fleeing suspect. As a result, she was charged with first and second degree manslaughter. Though justice was served, the loss of a young boy is an irreparable tragedy for any mother. Rolling through our list of another infamous serial killer, we have Joseph James DeAngelo, the original Night Stalker who terrorized California. You may know him by his more notorious nickname, the Golden State Killer. If not, we're here to reveal the shocking truth that will leave you stunned. DeAngelo was once a burglary unit police officer in Exeter, later serving in Auburn and other places. But what earned him a place on our list? To be specific about his horrific crimes, in 2020, DeAngelo pleaded guilty to 13 murders and 13 kidnappings, resulting in multiple life sentences. He was known for meticulously planning his attacks, often stalking his victims for days or even weeks, learning their routines and finding ways to break into their homes.
Break into a house with a gun, a house with a man and a woman. He would tie them up, tell the man, I'm going to put plates on your back, into another room and sexually assault her. Then he would go through the house for however much time, eating.
To make matters worse, DeAngelo is responsible for at least 13 murders, 51 assaults, and 120 burglaries. He was, without a doubt, a cruel monster in a human form.
Is moving all across Northern California, committing numerous sexual assaults, over 50 sexual assaults.
Here, he was called the East Area Rapist.
The police are saying lock up tight. Sacramento's infamous East Area Rapist may still be in town.
The survivors of DeAngelo's crimes and the families of his victims suffered immense trauma. Many lived in fear for decades, not knowing if the man who attacked them would ever be caught. So, how was he finally captured? In April 2018, at the age of 72, DeAngelo was arrested after investigators used a genealogy website to to match DNA from crime scenes to one of his relatives. It's almost unbelievable, but this breakthrough in forensic science was key to solving a case that had gone cold for over 30 years.
But having the unknown killer's DNA wasn't enough. They needed to match it to a known sample.
Here we have an apology from him for his deeds in the courtroom.
I've listened to all your statements, each one of them. And I'm truly sorry to everyone I've hurt. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir.
Before moving on to our next case, we have a question for you. If a person is suspected of a crime, don't you think it's the duty of the police to protect them while abiding by the law? Share your thoughts in the comments. And yes, you guessed it right. Our next case revolves around this very issue. Meet Rios Gonzalez, a woman suspected of carrying a firearm in her pickup truck.
There may still be a firearm in the vehicle. I don't know if you guys have been through it yet. You got it?
I got a holster here. No, we have not gone through it.
We weren't sure if she threw it or if it's still hidden in the vehicle somewhere. It took her a long time to pull over, and Platteville said he did not see anything leave the vehicle.
Right now, I just need to find out who she is so we can deal with that aspect of it.
The officers were busy conducting their search operation. But do you know where the suspect was placed during this time? Take a look.
Stop right there. Get down on one knee and then the other.
I got cuffs.
Go ahead.
Good? Keep your hands above your head.
Don't move.
What's going on? Ma'am, what's going on?
I'll tell you in a second. Take a seat.
I'm so confused. Can I get my cell phone?
I will get your cell phone for you. Take a seat.
The car, which belonged to the officers, was parked on railway tracks. She was left all alone in the car, with little to no safety if a train were to arrive. The irresponsible officers completely disregarded the suspect's safety. Unfortunately, our worst fears were realized.
Is that Hart?
No, that's time check. Oh my god!
Move your car! Stay back!
Patrol car was just hit by a train. Dispatch up to 346. Dennis, medical emergent. The suspect was in the vehicle that was hit by the train.
The scene is truly horrifying. The cops should be held accountable for their reckless behavior. Next, we delve into the dark tale of Gerard John Schaefer Jr., a police officer whose life of crime shocked the nation. Convicted in 1972 for the brutal murder and mutilation of 2 teenage girls in Port St. Lucie, Florida, Schaefer's horrific actions were only the beginning. Suspected of up to 26 murders, his criminal record paints a chilling picture of a man who betrayed his badge in the most horrifying way. Schaefer's journey to infamy began not in the shadows, but in the classroom. Before donning his police uniform, he worked as a geography teacher. In September 1971, he transitioned to law enforcement, joining the Broward County Police Department. By the end of the year, he was serving as a patrolman at just 25 years old. On July 21, 1972, Schaefer, while on duty, lured teenage hitchhikers Nancy Trotter and Paula Wells with the promise of a ride to Jensen Beach. Instead, he drove them to a secluded area where he brutally restrained them, binding them to trees, threatening them with rape and murder. Thankfully, the girls managed to escape, leading to Schaefer's arrest.
Schaefer tells his chief he'd wanted to teach 2 female hitchhikers about the dangers of accepting lifts with strangers. But in trying to do the right thing, he's overstepped the mark.
I was trying to teach them a lesson.
He told me he took the girls into the woods and tied them up. He left them there so that they would feel some fear.
To a spot he has specially prepared.
After he tied their hands, he tied a noose around their necks. and tied that to the limbs of the tree.
Schaefer forces Nancy and Paula to balance on the mangrove tree's slippery roots. One misstep and they'll die. While the girls' lives hang in the balance, Schaefer torments and molests them. Then, suddenly he departs, leaving the hitchhikers balancing on the roots. Before he goes, he tells the pair what will happen to them when he returns. Nothing prepares him for what he's about to discover. Out on Hutchinson Island, Crowder finds the girls running for their lives. They are terrified.
When I got out to that area,
Despite his capture, Schaefer's reign of terror continued. After being released on bail, he resumed his killing spree, eventually leading to the murder of 2 teenage girls. In 1973, after spending 6 months in jail for kidnapping, he was tried and convicted for these slayings. Schaefer was sentenced to 2 life terms, without the possibility of parole. His story didn't end there. Schaefer's gruesome legacy was a haunting reminder of how someone sworn to protect could become a predator. In 1995, he met a violent end in prison, but his crimes left a lasting impact on the communities he devastated. Now, that's all for today. As we wrap up this video, the cases we've explored reveal the chilling reality that evil can lurk behind any badge. While justice was served in these cases, the scars left behind are a somber reminder of the need for vigilance and accountability. If you found this video insightful, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. And as always, share your thoughts and questions in the comments below. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.